Hi, it's Laura, Aquamarine18. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping by, or welcome back. I just thought I'd come on YouTube and make a video this evening. It's a cold and wet night where I live. We're under a ice warning, which is pretty terrifying. Definitely staying in, trying to stay warm. So I thought I would make a little video about some cards that I plan to work with in 2020, which I'm sure I will be periodically sharing about on my channel in the upcoming year as well. So that includes my card of the year as well as some cards for each month. I am tagging this video with the yearaheadspread hashtag because I've seen a couple of other folks whose channels I subscribe to use this tag to identify videos that they've made about spreads that they've done, like around this time of year generally, or on New Year's Eve, for example, drawing cards that they will work with in one way or another, or which are predictive in one way or another of their upcoming year, of their 2020. So I'm not sure if this is a tag that's just a kind of general one, or if someone actually originated it. If you originated the year ahead spread tag, let me know, and I'm happy to give credit, in the description box. But I've just seen it floating around, so I'll, share mine. So this year I have my card of the year, which is the Hanged Man, and this is from the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann, which I got out to work with for this spread. And the way that I calculate my year ahead card, that I'm sure lots of people are familiar with and do the same thing, is just by taking my month and year of my birth, represented numerically, and adding those numbers to 2020, and then reducing down until you get, a number between 1 and 22 for the Fool. So my card is the Hanged Man. And I think of the Hanged Man often in terms of reflectiveness and pausing and mindfulness and getting a new perspective on a situation, getting a new angle on a situation, looking at things from a new view. It feels like a really good card to me for the same year as doing a depth year, which you'll know I'm doing if you've watched my channel. It's taking a new angle on things that I, do every day or work with every day. And so that's interesting. And so I have the Hanged Man. And so something that I've done for how I'll work with that card, and I always, upstairs in my room where I have a meditation table and also a tarot reading table set up there, and a magic making space kind of area. I always have my card of the year just displayed there throughout the year, just as a constant reminder of that card. So I'll be doing that this year. I also have my Metaphysician's Day Planner, which I think I'll probably do a video on the planner as well. But something that I've done, which I also did this last year, is in the note pages at the back of my planner, I've put a space for Hanged Man related reflections for my card of the year that I can just jot down whenever I have a Hanged Man related thought. So that's something that I will be doing this year. In terms of picking cards to work with each month, this is something that the Metaphysician's Day Planner, created by Annabelle Wen, also has space for. It has a cardomancy section for a card of the month, divinatory notes, and post-month reflections in a chart, and then the companion book that goes with the planner talks about doing a kind of year ahead spread and pulling these cards on, say, it could be New Year's Eve or something like that, and then having the cards for each month, and the planner prompts you to write your end of month reflections on the card, on the last day of each month. So that's a cool idea, but I wanted to approach it a bit differently this year, and this is inspired by The book that I've been reading, I've finished now, which is Mindful Tarot by Lisa Freinkel Tishman, PhD, who many of you may know of as the host of the Mindful Tarot channel here on YouTube, which I'll link to Lisa below. Lisa, if you're watching this, I really enjoyed your book. Thank you so much for putting this into the world. It came to me at a time that I really needed it, I think. So mindfulness is not something that I'm very familiar with or like had read much about before I got to this book, but something that she wrote in here, that Lisa wrote, that I think encapsulates it, that I'll just share, that I really liked, that I underlined. I underlined a lot of things in this book. She writes, and this is a direct quote from page 16 of the preface, she writes, "Mindfulness is simply the art of paying attention, with basic kindness and curiosity, to the full range of human experience in the present moment. It's the art of noticing how things are for us right now, without our getting hooked or derailed by our reactions, stories, aversions, and desires. Mindfulness is a skill that can be learned. That's why we practice it. It's a state of awareness that can be cultivated and deepened over time." And throughout the book, there's ideas about working with tarot as a component of a mindfulness practice. And one of the exercises, I guess, or activities that Lisa shares in her book is called the Wheel of Life spread. And she shows a layout of the Wheel of Life spread here. And the Wheel of Life spread is presented as a kind of alternative approach to something like a year ahead spread that is not predictive, right? So she describes the year ahead spread, as providing a reader with a glimpse into their future and an opportunity to transform loss into gain, for example, divinatory. Whereas on the other hand, the mindfulness approach with tarot is present-focused, experience-oriented, and awareness-directed. So she says, "For this reason, on each new year, I pull a Wheel of Life spread instead of a year ahead spread. It also uses 13 cards, but it encourages me to investigate the year as an interconnected whole, a turning wheel with interdependent ups and downs, revolving month by month, day by day, moment by moment, inviting me to stay present," and so on. So I really, really liked this idea of this Wheel of Life spread, and having a card for each month of 2020, not that is indicative of, what that month will be like for me necessarily in a predictive way. And I'm not should maybe be clear, I'm not opposed to or anti-predictive reading or anything like that. I engage in predictive reading in different kinds of ways, and, that's entirely fine. But I do kind of struggle sometimes when I do the predictive year ahead spread with a card for each month. And by the time this time of year rolls around, I can barely remember having done the spread a year prior, and is it still relevant? I don't know. So I wanted to try a bit of a different way. And this Wheel of Life spread really appealed to me. So I did two actually. With two different decks. I had one with a tarot deck, which I used the Seer's Tarot, and I got the independent. I backed this on Kickstarter. So I used my Seer's Tarot and did a card for each month, and I also used my Animal Allies Oracle by Jessica Swift, another deck that I love, to have one animal for every month in 2020. And these are cards that I'm kind of seeing as companions for their respective months, to think about, what they mean to me, how I might be feeling their energy showing up in my life at that time, how I might draw on the energy of those cards in good ways in that month, and looking for those cards, in my day-to-day life, looking for the energies of those cards in my day-to-day life, but not because I think I've predicted them being there, because I think they predict what my month will be like, but this more present-focused way. So this works really well for me. I have my word of the year for 2020, which I pasted in the front of my planner, is integration. So the idea of looking at this interconnected whole of the spread also appealed to me very much, and felt really fitting. And yeah, so what I've decided to do, and I'll show you what cards I picked in just a second. What I've decided to do, what Benabel has included in the chart here is the card for the month, and then divinatory notes and post-month reflection notes, and then there's the space to write the cards over there. So what I've decided to do is use the divinatory notes box to write down day 1 of the month reflections. So my initial impressions of the particular card, whether it be the tarot card or an animal card, just initial associations that I have, and how I understand those cards, and then use the post-month reflection box as intended, to think about my relationship with those cards shifting as I, really spend time with them and really think about them in this mindful way. So I thought that I would just share the cards I picked. I didn't take a big fancy picture. I didn't set my camera to face down and do the spread now. I did it already, but that I would share the cards that I got, because I'll be looking at them. My goal anyway, one of my goals for 2020 is to be better at keeping up with the end of month recap videos, and I thought recapping and sharing my post-month reflections on each of my cards of the month would be a good kind of anchor for those recaps. It's something that I can include each month for sure. So I would always have something to say anyway. So January, I was really happy to get, let's see if I can show them both. I got the Page of Swords from the Light Seers, and I really love this Page of Swords. I don't love all the cards in this deck, I will say. We have a complicated relationship, me and this deck. But I really love this Page of Swords. I think it's stunning. The light bulbs, coming to mind of an idea, right? An idea taking flight, and just the exploration, intellectual exploration. I love that. And the animal card that I received for January is the squirrel, which, aside from cats, is probably the animal that I see the most often. I enjoy watching them in my yard, and I think of squirrel a lot about preparation and planning and kind of, getting ready is what I think of when I think of the squirrel, and how they amass their acorns for the winter, right? So that feels like a good one for January. So I'll share more on my thoughts of these cards at the end of the month. For February, I have the Page of Pentacles, and I have skunk. So I have to say that, in terms of skunk showing up in my life in February, it's good to not have the prediction of the skunk spraying at your house or something. That would be bad. But I'm looking forward to thinking about skunk in new ways this year. I really, really love this Animal Allies Oracle deck. When I think of skunk, I think of assertion of boundaries, we'll say. Like get out of here, or you get sprayed. So I'm looking forward to that. And two pages at the start of the year is interesting. We'll see how they relate to each other. For March, which is the month of my birthday, I am a Pisces. I drew the Six of Swords, which the Six of Swords was one of my stalker cards in 2019, actually. Interestingly enough, I do very much like this depiction of the Six of Swords. Think about leaving for calmer waters, we'll say. Going on a journey, perhaps an intellectual one, for March, and see where that turns up. And alongside is Lizard. And unlike the other two, Skunk and Squirrel, lizards are not something that I spend a whole lot of time with in the climate and place that I live. I don't see a whole lot of lizards in my day-to-day life. So I have maybe fewer associations come readily to mind with lizard. But I was talking to my partner about this, and we're going to go in March because lizard came up for March. There is a reptile zoo that is in the area, and it's a really good one. It's a not-for-profit. It's a rescue and rehabilitation for injured animals and things like that. So I'm going to go there, and that will be a good way to meet some lizards, I think. In April, I will be working with the Death card, which in this deck is Death Rebirth. I know this is a way that a lot of people think of the Death card anyway. I think that the image is really beautiful. Though I will say, when I'm working with these cards of the month and exploring them and thinking about how I relate to them and how they might be present for me or how they might be supportive for me, I'm not necessarily just going to use these decks because they're the ones that I use to draw the spread. I'm interested in comparing different representations, for example, of the Death card and thinking about how that changes that archetypal energy and meaning for me to look at different Death cards. And so to go with that, what are we on? April. I also got the Shark to go with the Death card, which is an interesting pair. I'm not going to say my immediate thought when Shark comes up. My immediate thought is a certain very, very catchy and hard to get out of your head song that involves this, or Shark Week, right? I think about Shark Week, but I'm interested in learning more about sharks, so I'm glad that they came up. I think we're on May. May sounds about right. I received a great card, the Sun. Again, there are no good or bad cards, right, in the tarot, and certainly not in the context of Mindful Tarot. But this Sun, I feel like for May, the weather starts to warm up. Like right now, we're under a bunch of snow. May, the weather starts to warm up, and I feel like this. I feel like running out like this. As soon as the weather starts to get warm, and I feel like I might have a chance of wearing shorts. This jubilant feeling is very much the spring summer for me. Alongside Salmon, which is another, I feel like I'm saying interesting. Well, it's interesting, but it is, right? It's interesting. And it will be, I think, a good practice for me and a good mindfulness activity for me to really spend dedicated time with these animal allies that I have received for the upcoming year. Salmon. So for June, I have another court card. I got the Knight of Swords here, running off towards a motorcycle. I don't like motorcycles at all. I would not go on a motorcycle, but that swift moving. So I'm sure in that month I'll be thinking about kind of Knight of Swords with reference back to the Page of Swords earlier in the year, alongside Vulture. And Vulture is not one that you see too often in animal decks. But we know, of course, that vulture, performs very important roles in ecosystem, consuming the dead animals, which is important. Vultures we do see where I live sometimes. And I like that painting of the vulture there. July, I have another major arcana card. I got quite a lot of majors and courts, actually, for my year ahead, or Wheel of Life spread, inspired by the Mindful Tarot. So for July, I have the High Priestess, very beautiful, and I don't know if you can see the eyes there, but she has, in this depiction there, the eyes like kind of on the eyelids, which is an interesting depiction for this one with the blue scarf. Very much calls to mind intuition and contemplation, meditation. So I'm looking forward to working with the High Priestess. I really love the High Priestess in general, and an interesting pair to go with the High Priestess anyway, which I don't think of these two as any of the same associations at all. I got otter, and what a fun-loving animal ally to spend time with in July, and I'm sure that I will be doing a lot of this in July, swimming and floating about. We'll get our canoe out and swim like the otters, which is great. I really like otters a lot. For August, I got the Three of Wands. This is not my favorite Three of Wands, but it's quite sort of like very like traditional depiction, right? Looking out over the water to the future, thinking about what is coming as plans start to take shape. Alongside Hawk, who also sees into far, far distances, right, from very high up. And I do see a lot of hawks where I live. So that's August. September, more major arcana. I drew Judgment. Judgment is a card that I struggle with, sometimes when it turns up. So I'm looking forward to like spending some time thinking about what exactly, Judgment as a card means to me, and how I connect with it, and what I find in it. And I do like this image a lot for Judgment. And alongside Judgment for September is Octopus. And when I drew this, what I immediately thought was like September. September's when the school year starts, right? And I always feel like I'm doing 8 things at once. As I'm done summer break and getting back into the work routines and things like that, was what I initially thought of when I saw Octopus, specifically for that month. I really like octopi as well. I like all animals, actually. So October, I have the Two of Swords. And I like this Two of Swords. This Two of Swords to me feels a lot more distressing than I usually think of the Two of Swords as being. I often, think of the Two of Swords as being kind of two minds about something, feeling a kind of stalemate in a way, being, stuck and unable to decide, perhaps, which is a different, perhaps, it'll be interesting to think about that in relation to the Hanged Man as a year card as well, because I think that there's some similarities in the way that I think about those cards, though obviously not entirely. And alongside the Two of Swords for October, I have the Swan. I don't usually see swans where I live, but when I go to Stratford, Ontario, there's lots of swans there on the river. So I'm looking forward to thinking about swan. For November, I got the moon. And for folks who don't know, the 18 in Aquamarine 18 refers to the moon card, which is my card associated with Pisces, my sun sign. I don't like this depiction of the moon card, if I'm honest. I think that the top part is beautiful. When I saw this card, I was a bit hit negatively by feeling like the person had drowned or had been tossed there. But the moon card is one of my favorite cards in the whole major arcana, and the moon card for November is a good card for me. And spending some time with the moon card and different depictions of the moon card, I think, will be a really good thing for me. And to go with the moon, I have Scorpion. Scorpion is another one that I think of in terms of kind of boundaries as well, right? The Scorpion will strike if someone is too close to the Scorpion, and what I think of what sets that off, right? What sets off that kind of self-protective reactions, right? Is one of the things that I think of when I think of Scorpion. And finally, for December, I have the Eight of Wands. Action, forward movement, work that I'm passionate about. I think about eights in terms of work often in the fire suit, right? And I do like this Eight of Wands quite a lot. And the Eight of Wands actually goes with the wolf. And folks will know that I got to meet some wolves for the first time in person. I have a video about that. When we went to the wolf sanctuary, or not sanctuary, it's like a park, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called. But this place where there's a pack of wolves, and they observe them and care for them there. And we got to see them, and they're really awe-inspiring in person to see them. I felt them really strongly, being so close, and I'm hoping that with Wolf being in December here, that maybe next year we could go back to see the wolves again up there. It's not very far from us. It's like a 2-hour drive or something like that. To see them and to hear them, because wow, hearing the wolves in person is really something. And I've been thinking about wolves a lot since I saw them, so I'm going to get to spend some time with Wolf again, which I'm looking forward to. So that's my plan for cards of the month during my Hanged Man year, with my kind of year ahead spread, but done with the inspiration from Mindful Tarot by Lisa Freinkel Tishman, and this idea of a non-predictive, present-focused, mindful approach to cards of the month and my card of the year. I've enjoyed this so far. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be keeping these cards out each month. I'll have my Hanged Man card displayed all year, but each month I'll have my my animal card and probably the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the tarot card for each month out as well. I have some just little basic stands that I keep the cards on so that I can look at them, and when I'm journaling, I can see them, or meditating, I can see them. So that's my plan for working on my cards of the year, and I'm going to keep track of them, of course, in my day planner. So I've been enjoying seeing others' year ahead spreads of different sorts. If you've done a year ahead spread and you don't make videos, please feel free to comment in the box below and tell me about how you approach any readings that you might do for yourself at this time as we're coming very close to the beginning of a new year 2020. I would love to hear and chat about that. If you stuck with me this long, well, I didn't intend this video to be this long. If you stuck with me for the full 30 minutes, thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting, of course. I am hoping that I can get on again before the end of the calendar year. But I wish everybody a very happy end of 2019 and a very happy new year. So thank you again and have a great night. Bye.